everyone, so this is going to be a slightly different type of video and it's something that I've been thinking a lot about these last couple of weeks, and then realised that I haven't actually ever really spoken about it in depth, and I don't know why. It just never occurred to me. But if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see that I've had quite a few not nice comments about my weight these past couple of weeks. And, you know, it's not something that's kind of so awful. It happens, you know, I get upset at the time and then I just move on from it. But it has got me thinking a lot about my struggle with my weight. And I wanted to talk to you about it because I have struggled with this pretty much my whole life, and I know that there's other people out there who struggle with it as well, and I think that it's something that we don't really talk about as much as maybe we should, and it can come across as like you're kind of just whining or making excuses, or it's just one of those things that I think unless you've been through it, you can't begin to understand. And, you know, people try and people are sympathetic and people are nice or whatever, but unless it's something you've experienced, it's a very, very difficult thing to explain to somebody. And I have, I'm going to kind of talk about it in this video, and if there is any type of negative comment, I'm pre-warning you now, don't even bother, because you're not going to get a reply. All that is going to happen is the comment will be deleted and will be blocked. I'm not having it on this video. You know, I'm talking about something personal, and if you've got any kind of like, you know, issues, then they're your issues, and please don't put them on here, because like I said, I will just block you. They will go away and there'll be no point to you ever making those comments, because it's just not the place for it. But yeah, let me back up a little bit. So the first time I think I started to notice that I had problems with my weight and body image and that kind of thing, because they go hand in hand for me, was probably when I was about 12. And I was, you know, a slim kid, like perfectly normal, and then when I got a teenager, I'd started to fill out a little bit. And my everybody on my mum's side of the family is really slim. They're all people who have, like, you know, amazing metabolisms, and they're all really slim. And on my dad's side, it is very much most people in my family struggle with their weight and are fairly overweight. And I do think that kind of within that kind of thing, genetics does play a big part in it. And I started to sort of become aware of the fact that I was a bit chubby, and then decided to start going on diets. And from that age till now, I've kind of been the queen of diets. I've done all sorts of different types of things, and I've gained a lot of weight and then lost a lot of weight and then gained it back and then lost it again quite a few times. And what it ultimately comes down to is you're either a person who really struggles to maintain your weight, or you're not. And when you're somebody who does struggle and who struggles with body image as well, there's so many different layers to it and so many different things where, you know, like, you don't like how you look, but maybe your relationship with food isn't like the most balanced thing. And I have kind of had help and spoken about it a couple of times with people, but it's never really kind of made that much of a difference. And I've kind of gotten to a place where I felt good, and then it all kind of got out of control for me. And obviously, like, looking at me now, you can see I'm the heaviest I've ever been in my entire life, and I absolutely hate it. I'm not saying it in a way of, like, you know, for everyone to say, no, you look great or whatever, and people say, oh, you know, you need to be kind to yourself and all that kind of thing, and I do really appreciate that. But at the same time, you know when you look good and you know when you don't, and I'm like under no illusions, I know that I don't. I know that I look fat and that it doesn't look good on me. Like, I'm not saying it in a kind of offensive way or putting myself down. It just is what it is. It's the truth. And even kind of on my time on YouTube, I had started out being really skinny. Well, not really skinny, I wasn't ever really skinny, but slim when I was like first starting out on YouTube, which was like 5 years ago, and then put weight back on, and then lost it all again on YouTube and documented it on YouTube, and then was slim for a little while, and then gradually started putting it back on until we've ended up here. And that's kind of been the pattern throughout my life. And I know sometimes people find it very frustrating, and people watch and then be like, it's because you always go on diets. You know, you need to just change your whole lifestyle and make a switch in your head, and this is the lifestyle for you, and you need to kind of treat it that way. Or people will say, you know, you need to go vegan, that lifestyle will change everything for you. And I think sometimes, like, as much as all of these things are just people trying to help, it can be so difficult, because it's applying a simple solution to a more difficult, complicated problem, because it's all to do with what's going on in your head and how you feel and your willpower and feeling like you're in the right headspace to be able to tackle something as big as this. Because if you're somebody who finds it difficult, you find it really difficult to get in the zone. And I've had times in my life before where, you know, I am in the zone and I found it really, really easy, and I'm like, yes, this is good, and I'm motivated and it happens. And then other times where it's just not, and it's really, really difficult, and then your body image really suffers, which makes it even more difficult because it makes you more miserable. And it is probably, like, you know, the most difficult thing one of the most difficult things that I have to deal with in my life, because it's a constant struggle. It's a constant struggle because I am one of those people who gains weight so easily and who has to work so hard at just being, you know, slim-ish, at being a size 10. I have to work so hard at it, where I have to work out every day and hardly eat. And I know people say, like, you know, no, if you work out loads and you eat and whatever. I know my body more than someone else knows my body, and I know what works for my body. And the only way for me to kind of maintain that and be as slim as I can possibly be is to be very, very restrictive. And being that restrictive makes you miserable, because, you know, it's not fun, and it makes you obsessive because you're trying to constantly kind of not fail, that's not the right word, but you kind of don't want to mess things up, and you're trying to always be in control of what you're doing. And it's just a very kind of like weird cycle that I've had my whole life, where I have to be so strict, and I realise that and I accept that, but then at the same time I feel so angry sometimes that I have to be that way, because it's exhausting. Like, nobody talks about it. It is exhausting to have to be on it all the time, or you gain weight. And people, you know, say, oh, go and have your thyroid checked and all of that kind of thing. I haven't got anything wrong with me physically. It's just that's how my metabolism is, and probably years of dieting has not helped my metabolism either. But I know there's a lot of people like that, and I know people who, you know, like, are in their like 30s and 40s or whatever, who still have to kind of constantly be on it and struggle with it. And it's very, very difficult as well when people around you are not people like that. Like, I don't know anybody really who is like close to me who has that. They're either kind of people who are overweight and are okay with it, or people who are just naturally slim, and it's not something that they ever have to think about. It's not something that they can even begin to understand. And that's what makes it really, really difficult sometimes as well, is like, it's so complicated, and you can't explain to somebody how complicated it is, and people try and really simplify it for you, and it just isn't. There's so much to it. And the comments that I've had recently, there was one person who kept posting on my Facebook page, and like I said, if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see this, but he kept posting on my Facebook page a link to a video of how I lost weight, and he kept doing it, and I knew what he was doing, but I kind of ignored it. But when he did it a couple of times, I just sort of said, like, why were you posting this? And he said, to inspire you, it's time for change. Now, ignoring the fact that that's like just such a weird thing to do, to be that obsessed by someone else's weight, and that it's rude, but whatever. Then, and the other comment was someone who, she wasn't trying to be horrible. She thought she was being helpful, but someone who was basically saying that I looked better before, you know, and that I needed to go back on my diet. And she said, you know, I like you, this is why I'm telling you this. And I also wanted to talk about that in this video, in that I don't know about you, but I personally think it is never, ever, ever helpful to tell somebody who is overweight that they need to change and that they need to lose weight. Because guess what? Unless, you know, they're blind and don't own any mirrors in their house, they know. you know, like, nobody's stupid. People aren't completely oblivious and, like, you know, walking around thinking that they look like Kate Moss. People know, and you don't know what's going on with that person. And like on YouTube, when people make it, I always find it really annoying, because I think you don't know what's going on in my life. You know, I might have a really bad, like, thyroid problem. I don't, but I might. You don't know that. So why would you comment on that? Why would you think that that's being helpful? And I just think, like, it's not helpful, it's hurtful. If you want to inspire somebody to do something, first of all, I think it's kind of like, it's different when it's somebody that's in your kind of everyday life and, you know, like a family member or somebody you really care about. There are ways of saying it, and it's never pleasant, but there are kind of ways of saying it. And just pointing out someone's flaws to them is like, why do you think that that would be helpful? How do you think they're not going to be offended by that? Because it's offensive. I can't even begin to understand people's logic when they do that. Like, it just baffles me completely. And when you're somebody who's struggled with it your whole life, I always feel like I'm trying to keep a lid on it. I'm trying to kind of eat healthy, and I'm trying to not obsess, and I'm trying to kind of not eat too little, and I'm trying to not eat too much, and I'm trying to not let kind of my self be really critical of my body. But at the same time, I'm thinking, well, you know, you do need to be critical, because otherwise things slip and then you end up in this situation. And it's just it's a constant everyday battle, and some days you just don't have it in you. And you know, it's not like saying excuses or whatever. Everybody has stuff that goes on in their life. But if you're somebody who's having to constantly work on your weight, and it is an everyday thing that you know you're going to have to do for the rest of your life, it is really exhausting. And I feel so jealous of people who, you know, just are just normal. Everything's just, you know, I can't think of like a better way to say it other than normal, but, you know, it's just balanced, it's just fine, you know, it's not an issue. It's not something that they ever have to think about, because I think about it all of the time, and I always have done. And I know that probably means that I've kind of got, you know, underlining issues on the subject and things like that, and I have, for all sorts of different reasons. Some to do with me, some to do with other people, and it's just a very difficult thing to explain to somebody who's never ever struggled with this before. It's a daily struggle. It's constantly thinking about it, and it just gets tedious and boring, and you need to get to a place where you just feel okay and you can maintain that. And I have done that before, and then something really bad will happen and I'll slip because I feel like I'm not in control of anything, and it's just really difficult. But I wanted to kind of talk to you about this, because it is like, I have battled with my weight all my life pretty much. And I'm not going to stay looking like this. Like, you know, I will lose weight again and try and keep it off and try and be the best that I can be. But I just wanted to talk to you about it today, because I just wanted for people to know that, you know, telling somebody that they need to lose weight or go on a diet, it's not helpful. And it's not, you know, it's not kind. And it's something that we all know, and everybody is doing the best that they can do at that time. And you can't simplify such a complicated situation. It's basically the moral of this story. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you did, and I would love to hear your experiences down below and how you feel. I know so many of you feel the same, and I think it's really great that we can talk about it. So please let me know what you think down below, and I will see you in my next video.